My next guest is Harry Waters. Harry has played with Roger Waters, Tom Jones, Eddie Vedder, Ween and Marianne Faithfull, among many others. Now he's working with scores for TV and film in LA. If you've ever seen the TV show Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, you have heard his music. Thank you, Harry, for taking the time, and thank you for listening. I'm Oskar Fagelund Interviewing. Let's begin. If I can begin with a question that I think that few people that I know can answer, it's that I believe that people like you and you are really good at what you do, meaning film music and creating scores and so forth. I want to ask you, what is the writing process, both your personal one, but also like the industry standard, like when you get a project, like, hey, come and do music for us. How does that look?
Good question.
Yeah.
Yeah. It depends really. It depends what genre the music is in.
Right.
I mean, you'll normally get like a brief. You'll see some of the rush. It depends what time you start on the project. If you're there from the beginning,
yeah,
let's start work on a short at the moment that's only just been written. So there isn't even a sizzle reel at this stage. There's some pictures, some storyboarding, and some writing. Some hand drawn sketches. It's a horror movie. I can't really say more about it than that.
Okay, cool.
At that early stage,
yeah,
it's really nice because you can start to form ideas,
yeah,
musical ideas, based only upon basically what's in your head. As I say, there are some sketches, but it's not. You haven't already got completed scenes.
Yeah.
There's nothing really to influence what is going to come out of you other than what's in your own imagination. So I'm already thinking about that and what instruments I'm going to use.
Right.
Melody normally comes first,
yeah,
and I normally sit at the piano. I know you can't see my piano; it's just there.
yeah,
I'll normally sketch out ideas on the piano, as long as there's some melodic component to it. And then I'll come here and using a controller, I'd mock it up in Cubase with all the instruments.
yeah. So like when you begin from the beginning, like you said, who is it that is it like, okay, come on, can you show me 10 melodies for this, or can you show samples?
No, not normally.
No. Okay.
No, it depends who you're talking with. Sometimes you're dealing with an editor, sometimes you're dealing with a producer or director. It entirely depends on who you're dealing with. But the most important thing is not the job title, but whether or not the person you're dealing with is musical.
Okay.
That's the biggest barrier. When you're dealing,
I can imagine.
When you're dealing with someone who's creative but doesn't know anything about music, there's like a language barrier, but I deal with people who aren't musical at all, and then I have other people who aren't musicians but who are very musical. I have an editor friend I've been friends with for like 35 years. He's here. He's an editor in LA.
Okay.
And when we work together, it's just amazing because he just understands. So he can be very specific with his direction.
Yeah.
He knows about scales and he knows theory, and so he can be very specific. But sometimes someone will say, make it warmer, or make it more airy.
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's not a problem. But you have to translate that into music. Both are fine. I really enjoy both.
Yeah. But you mentioned that this is when you begin with a project, like early stage, when you come in from the absolute beginning. How is it when you come in later? Or how is the process different? Because I can imagine that it's much more stressful, or I mean, they have to get it done quicker.
Yeah, I like work. I don't like being stressed. I like working under pressure.
Right.
So I like having a tight deadline.
Yeah.
I can work
Me
very
too.
quickly.
Yeah.
I don't have any problem being under pressure.
Right.
I don't crack under pressure. But so yeah, if you have less time, you just have to work quicker, and you have to come up with good ideas quickly. Obviously, the later on in the if you come onto a movie and the movie's already been shot, or whatever it is, the TV show or something has been shot, then you just jump in and you work to picture, and they send you hopefully a final cut, but maybe it won't be final, but it'll be close to final. So you really know, exactly how many minutes you need. They'll often say, I know we want cues here, 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 and here, but we want silence here. So it's much more sort of, there's often, it can be easier in a way because it's much more specific. Right. And then you work with the director normally to work out the mood of the scene and what you want to convey, whether it's happy or sad or stressful or light or airy or whatever the mood is, and try and bring that out in the music.
Yeah, because for me, I think I would love to hear you talk about that process being like that creative process between you and for example the director when you are in that stage, because I could imagine that would be really fun, like that process and that feedback back and forth. Yeah,
it's really good fun. So I had a really good experience working with a friend of mine. He's called Tommy Pilotta.
Okay.
He's normally a producer. He produces Richard Linklater's movies. Do you know Richard Linklater?
I don't. Sorry.
That's okay. He's one of the greats. He made School of Rock and Boyhood.
Okay.
Waking Life.
Okay.
Scanner Darkly.
Okay.
He's just fantastic. Dazed and Confused is one of his great movies. But he's a fantastic director. Anyway, Tommy produces some of Linklater's movies. So he's normally a producer. And you haven't seen them, but if you watch Scanner Darkly and Waking Life, they're animated.
Okay.
They use particular styles of animation.
Okay.
Anyway, so Tommy does animation and producing, but he directed a documentary called More Human Than Human. I don't know, maybe 4 years ago we worked on it together.
Okay.
It's about AI and robots and the development of AI, and will AI ever be able to replace humans? And working with him was fantastic because he's very musical. We're really good friends. We spend a lot of time talking about Radiohead and other interesting music that we love. So he knows the language quite well.
Wow.
So he can be quite specific,
Wow.
Yeah.
Because like if you look at expressions and you look at music as an expression and you look at film and photography, to me I think it would be really fun to work with someone that has so many specific ideas on how exactly they want their movie. They have so many thoughts, and then you can come in and you can complement it and you can create something together. So like I'm because I'm not in your industry, I know nothing. Like how long does this process take? Like if you come into a movie in the beginning of the process, how long before when you get the job to it's produced, it's done?
Good question. It depends how many minutes are required.
Right.
For a full, there's normally, I mean, this is an approximation, sometimes 2/3, anywhere between 50% and about 2/3. So sometimes up to even 3/4. So somewhere between 50 and 75% of a film needs score.
Yeah.
So in 100
that's a lot.
minutes, that's 75 minutes, or
that's a lot.
Somewhere between 50 and 75 minutes.
Yeah.
If I work really hard, and it depends what the instrumentation is. If I'm doing a minimal piano piece score, I could probably do that in like a few days. But if you're writing full orchestra, if I work really hard, I can mock up about 1 minute a day.
Okay.
About a minute a day of. So that would take me at least a good 2 months.
2 months, 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Okay.
For full orchestra, but if it's just a string quartet, then much quicker,
Yeah. And also, just because I'm curious, like you create something, you send it in. What is kind of the feedback that you get? What is like a common note?
It entirely depends. It can be like, it's quite rare that someone goes, that's it, perfect, move on. There's always some sort of feedback.
Something, always something. Yeah.
It could be anything. It could be just a timing issue. Like maybe I'll see a scene and think, this is where the peak of the scene is. This is the emotional beat here.
Right.
But the director thinks, no, you know what? It's a few frames earlier. That percussion, that bang needs to come in here. And so we you negotiate the timing of where these beats happen, or it could be a melodic thing. Maybe it's something minor, and the director goes, no, I know the scene looks sad, but I want to evoke a happy feeling. So you just make the minor thirds major and you turn it major.
Wow.
It could be anything. It could be a rhythmical thing, a harmonic thing, a tempo thing, a key thing. It just is anything. Anything. Really could be
okay. You need to be flexible then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned a good word, emotions. That's kind of what you do. Like you work towards emotions, or seeing in a scene, here's the emotional, here's when they break up or whatever. So we need to build to this point. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. You want to tell. Music is there to tell the audience what to feel.
Okay.
And some composers are brilliant.
That was really good.
Brilliant at being subtle about that. Other composers really slam you with this, whatever it may be. So the good ones, you don't even really notice what the music is trying to make you feel until you sort of feel it. A really, really good example of that is Jaws. John Williams is my favorite composer.
That I have seen.
Just that. Sorry, what did you say?
I said that I have seen.
Yeah. Just the semitone. Just that is scary. Two notes, a semitone apart. Do I need to explain what semitones are? Would viewers be interested, or should I not?
Oh yeah. For me, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So for those that aren't musical, a semitone is the smallest interval we have in Western music. In Eastern and Arabic music, they rely on other things like quarter tones, and but a semitone is this. Those are semitones. So that's the smallest gap, that we have in Western scales. And it's what John Williams uses in Jaws. And it's so effective. It just makes you feel uneasy immediately. The two notes. So very, very clever. Very clever.
It is. I love the sentence that music tells you what to feel, or tells the audience what to feel. But that's so interesting to me. Tell me how do you look at a scene to find these emotions?
Good. Good question. Hopefully you'd have a script first. Nice to have a script before seeing the picture, but often you don't.
Okay. So you like to see the you like to see the script before?
If I can.
Okay. Wow.
I'd like to read through a script because then, I'm a big reader. I love reading novels. I tend to read novels primarily. I don't read much nonfiction. I love fiction. So having a script, you just get an idea of the emotion that you need to needs to be conveyed.
So you like to get the script before, so you can sit there with yourself and the emotions that you feel through that, and then you can see the interpretation that the other people have made, creating the picture, and then you can find something there that works. Wow.
And that can be very helpful.
And for example, in a scene, I don't really know, how long is a scene, like 2 minutes on average, or
it could be anything. A couple of minutes. Entirely depends.
Right.
I don't know if have you seen Touch of Evil?
I haven't. Sorry.
Okay. That's just an incredible opening scene. It's shot in Santa Monica, actually, Venice. It's shot just down by Venice Pier, like 10 minutes from here.
Okay.
And it's just incredible, and it's shot in one shot. It's absolutely the whole opening scene is one camera shot, and it's like many minutes. It might even be 10 minutes long. It is so incredible.
That's insane.
You should go and see that. It's quite.
I should. I really should.
Yeah, it's a great movie. Touch of Evil. Yeah.
Wow, cool. So tell me about the comedians in cars getting coffee. Tell me about that part. That I have watched. I'm a bit starstruck.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very different thing, because all they want is some light-hearted some jazz.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not, you're not going for any emotional beats.
Right. Right.
So in fact, the first bits of music that I got for that, I didn't even know they were in there.
Okay.
My music is licensed, and my music is published. My jazz album, I have a bunch of jazz tracks that are published. And then I got an email one day from someone going, "Hey, we love your music on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And we want you to write some more for it." I went, "Oh my God, amazing. I didn't even know it was in there." You know? It had obviously gone in, been shown, and I hadn't checked my statement. I hadn't like specifically read my, my sort of royalty statement.
Yeah.
So he just said, "Do more of the same."
Wow.
So I wrote like 10 or 20 pieces. I can't remember exactly how many, but like a couple of albums worth of just trio jazz. I'm a piano player, so I just wrote, played the bass and the drums and the piano, and just tinkly, light-hearted, funny, bouncy. Nothing like My Funny Valentine. You know that Chet Baker song?
Yeah.
Nothing like that.
Yeah.
They just wanted fun, light-hearted jazz. I had no idea which episode it was going to go in, because all of them is the same. All the beds that sit underneath the talking, they're not really it's not score. It's just, they're called beds really, when they just sit underneath the scene, and just sort of move the scene along. So that's I certainly didn't meet Seinfeld or have any conversation with anyone.
Right.
It was just the producer said, "Just write me a bunch of jazz cues." So I did that, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really nice. So like on a project, how many musicians are there? Because for example, on the comedians in cars getting coffee.
Cars, yeah.
How many? Is it just you, or how many? It's just you.
Yeah. But the first, I just played it. I played the piano, and then I played the drums. And the bass. Just samples. Samples are so good these days.
Yeah.
You often can't tell. Your job as a musician who uses MIDI. Do you know what MIDI means?
No, I don't.
Okay, MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface.
Okay.
It's much easier than it sounds. Okay. It's a way for a keyboard to communicate with a computer. So you load up the sequencer, Cubase or Logic or Pro Tools, whatever it is, and then you have samples. They take up a huge amount of space in your library of real instruments that have been recorded at high quality, so they sound excellent. But you need to control them or trigger them on your computer with a keyboard. Control.
Yeah.
So MIDI is the standard by which this instrument talks to the computer. And a lot of composers use it because it's very easy. You can load in a clarinet or a piano or drums.
Right.
Yeah. So for those jazz tunes, I just use MIDI drums and MIDI bass to play those parts. I use live piano, like I play my actual piano. So when I say live, that means using microphones. I'm actually capturing the real audio using a microphone.
Okay. Yeah. So
I've sort of forgotten what your question was now.
I can continue. No. Yeah. So I've been using Logic a bit. I'm not that interested in writing music myself, and I have a few friends that are really good at it. So I don't have to. But when it comes to the MIDI fields, that's MIDI in English. It's what I said in Swedish. I just didn't understand it when you said it. But you said that they have gotten a lot better, right? So tell me about that. Like now you feel it's kind of the same, like working with for example a violinist, if you need a violin, or because you have so much more control, and then instead of you having to have like 40 people. That
was it. I remember what you were talking. You asked me how many people can be involved. So sort of both of those at the same time. It entirely depends. How big the budget is, really.
Right.
So for example, I just scored some seeds. A friend of mine composing the music for a film, like a gangster movie. and he got me to write a few cues. He was just too busy, couldn't get it done. So I scored like 2 or 3 scenes just to kind of help him out. And then we recorded just the strings. So we recorded 19 strings at Soundstage in Burbank. It's called I can't remember the name of the studio, but that's amazing. When you've got 19 string players, violins, cellos, and basses, it's just such a beautiful sound. But if the budget's big enough, you can afford a full orchestra of like 60, 70, 80 people. It's just incredible. That's a huge amount. But maybe you just want to hire one violinist. Just record one single violin. But going back to the MIDI thing, good composer should be able to do really good sounding mock-ups. So that means recording all the parts, composing the music, and then if you orchestrate as well, which I do, orchestrating the music yourself and playing it and recording it. So if you just press play, it sounds almost like a real orchestra. To an untrained ear, they might think, "Oh, that's a real orchestra," played with real players. And obviously it's much cheaper because it's free. I can do that myself.
And it's easier. So so if I am to interpret your answer, the answer is that it's amazing to work with an orchestra if the budget is there. But if the budget is there, it works fine just with you and your keyboard and your computer. And today it works well.
Totally, it's very commonplace to mix both. So, for example, with these scenes that I scored for this movie, I use brass and some wind and strings and some percussion. We decided just to record the strings. So we're using MIDI percussion, like the timps are all MIDI, the winds are MIDI, and the brass are MIDI. But we decided to record the strings, so we had 19 players. And strings are live, and that just makes such a huge difference to the sound.
Why is it such a difference to the sound? Is it because the sound is just better when it's live?
You can't beat the live sound of 19 real human beings all conveying emotion and recording all together. You can get close on a keyboard, and if you're skilled as a manipulator of audio and stuff and good at doing mock-ups, and I love to do good mock-ups, you can get pretty close, so it sounds pretty good, but it's not 100%. But a lot of score that we see in not in like obviously in the Avengers and in big budget movies, it's all orchestra, it's all like live orchestra, but if you come down a step in budget, it'll be a mix of still relatively high budget movies,
right.
A mix of MIDI and audio.
Because that's something that I want to get to now, but also like if you could explain that to me, like high budget, then you want an orchestra, but what is high budget, what is low budget?
Good question. I mean, sort of a decent budget is probably like $10 million. Like $10 million. And then they might allocate, it just entirely depends how much they want to give for the music, If you have like $100,000, that's a fantastic amount of money, and you can go in and I can get paid well, and I can afford a bunch of players to come and record to 2 or 3 or 4 days, maybe even a full orchestra. But if you're getting paid like $10,000,
of course
I've got to pay my bills,
of course
do all of that. I can't go into a studio for a week with a full orchestra. Maybe I'll be able to record, spend a few $1,000s and pay just the strings, or maybe just the horns, or
like on if I watch a movie and it's under $10, it's under 10 million, then I can be pretty sure it's probably someone like you with a computer.
Maybe a mix. Actually, I mean, around 10 million, that's probably going to be full score. That'll be live musicians. Once you're getting under 4 or 5, then it might start to some more MIDI might start to creep in, I would guess. Okay. So then
I want to ask you something. So I saw a video where was a guy who was filming people in the States and showing them pieces of music. And he showed the or film music. So he showed a piece of Star Wars, the famous da 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 da, and then everyone was like, "Yeah, that's Star Wars," you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And then he showed them like Harry Potter, and then like the Lord of the Rings, like some really famous tunes that everyone saw.
Yeah.
And then he showed them like the newest. You mentioned Avenger, like one of the newest Avenger movies.
Yeah.
And then no one knew what it was. No one could say it. Oh, it's that tune. It's that melody that I know.
Yeah.
And the point that he was trying to make was that maybe the industry is changing from that the focus needs to be on the music, or that it's more of a focus on the music to that it's not. And the point there being that not that they don't like musicians, but for the directors and for the people that are working it's just easier to have the music be more minimalistic, and maybe they don't have to worry with some copyright. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just from someone that has the
well, I mean, I think the key word you used there is melody.
Right.
So, we can all remember the Star Wars theme.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I just love, especially about John Williams. Is his melody so
absolutely
memorable.
Amazing. So
my favorite piece of score ever of all time is Superman, the main theme. Superman. I've listened to that's Hans Zimmer's favorite piece of music as well. Just coincidentally, I've listened to that thousands of times. I never tire of it. Da 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 ba 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 da 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 ba ba ba. That whole the main theme is so memorable. As is Star Wars and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jaws. There's a lot of great scores now. There are some really, really great ones being written, but for me, melody is the starting point.
Right.
Melody is key. I couldn't sing a theme from the Avengers. I'm not disparaging anyone or anything.
No.
The scores that I particularly love tend to be melody driven. Not always. Always. There's a score that I really love. It's a horror movie called It Follows. Have you seen that?
I have to be honest. Horror movies is not my thing. I'm too scared.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. It's really creepy and scary. But it's got the amazing score. The guy's called Disaster Piece. I think his name is Rich Freeland, but he goes by the moniker Disaster Piece. And he did really good music for a video game called Fez. That was kind of his starting point. And then he scored this movie, It Follows. And there's no real, I can't sing the melody, but it's so good. It's like a mixture of, it sounds electronic, ambient electronic mixed with real orchestral instruments, but very minimal. There's a lot of sort of percussive. It's very rhythmical. It's not tune based. There's no like scary melody going on. It's very like sort of ding dong ding dong ding dong ding dong, kind of. And I just love it. That's one of my favorites.
Right.
Pretty cool.
So, like, to my question, do you think that the point that he was making in this video was that maybe the industry is changing from scores being melody based to not? Do you think that's true, or do you think that it's
no? I think because Lord of the Rings is very melody based.
It is absolutely. And also famous. Beautiful melody. Beautiful.
Yeah, really good. Yeah, it's a great score, really nice melody, Harry Potter, again, the main sort of melody for the Harry Potter is very kind of memorable. That's really cool. I love I know it's a bunch of the movies have been scored by different people, but I think it was John Williams wrote the sort of famous dun, 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 I think that is John Williams. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody.
But I don't know.
I'm not 100%, but I think it is. But it's such a great melodies. It's just beautifully memorable and really, really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So, to tell me a little bit about myself.
I'm 23. I just finished school. I'm a classical singer. I sing opera, and I'm interested in understanding more stuff. And kind of where I'm going with the podcast is that I love classical music, and it's what I grew up on. It's what all my friends and family members do, but kind of our problem is that our audience is decreasing in an alarming rate. And that's kind of the thing that I want to see, like, ask people like what they think about this. And I understand that this is maybe not the focus of your thoughts on what you do, but just like very interesting for someone like me to talk to someone like you who are in a very big industry. I mean, California, what is it, the fifth biggest economy in the freaking world?
It's huge.
Like,
it's massive.
And the movie industry, I mean, the billions of revenue that you create. So there's like the very open-ended question: what do you think that we could do better, or maybe what do you think that we could learn from you? That's a very big question. I don't.
That's a really difficult question.
Sorry.
Easy answer. I don't know.
Sorry.
Just keep making good music. You know, I do. I think it's a shame that more people don't listen to classical music I don't know. I never go into someone's car and they put on classical music, like, ever. I don't think ever in my life.
No.
You know? But I often do listen to classical music, and I don't know why. Why is it not so popular? I don't know. I don't. And how can we do better? I don't know. I mean, it's still a big thing. Certainly here, there are amazing shows in Disney Concert Hall, and it's still there. But maybe it's just not talked about as much. I don't know. Maybe I just don't know. I don't know. And there's such a huge back catalogue. There's so much music out there, classical music out there.
It is.
You know, just an absolute wealth, a huge library of amazing music. I don't know why more people don't enjoy it.
Right. This is a big question, but I can start from another point. So in classical music, we have like this like famous debate between absolute music and the other name is program music. So program music is what you do. It's looking at something and creating music to it. And absolute music, and like a famous example of that is Berlioz and his Symphonie Fantastique. I said that wrong, but that's fine. And we have absolute music, but it's not looking at nature or looking at a movie script or looking at other people or just the composer, you know, sitting in his cellar or whatever and just writing from his imagination. And this has been like a huge argument, like in music at a high philosophy level. And I'm not really that interested in that level. But what I am interested in is my friends who are orchestral musicians, and when we talk about music, they say one of the things when I ask them like, what do you want to do? They say that we want to focus on the music. We want the focus to be on the music. It should not be on something else. I completely disagree. But kind of on that point, because you are creating a lot of program music. In that case, and I don't believe at all that it makes your stuff worse. I just think it's another way of going into that problem, or another way of looking at it. I don't know. What do you think?
It is. It's two different approaches. You know, I often sit down at the piano and just play and write and compose for no reason other than it's fun. You know, but when you're working to brief, you are funneled in a certain way. Whereas when you're not working to brief, there are no funnels. I think it's just as simple as that. You know. And both are fun. Both are good fun. You know, working with constraints is actually really good. I have some piano students, and one of the things I teach them, certainly the ones who are trying to learn to play jazz, giving yourself constraints. So this would be on the program side. You know, when you're course,
Right.
for example, trying to teach people to improvise,
Yeah.
give yourself limits.
Yeah.
So if I'm trying to teach someone to improvise in, let's say, C blues or something, just a simple blues form.
Yeah.
You're playing a C7 and you've got the C blues scale in the right hand.
Yeah.
Limit yourself to the first two notes.
Wow.
So C and E flat.
Wow. Yeah.
So
that's
all
really good.
you don't have to move your hands, and you're just playing with like 1 and 3. So your thumb and your third finger, and just play those two notes. So all you can really experiment with is two things: dynamic and rhythm. You can either play the note more loudly or quietly, and and you can change the rhythm, but you can't play any of the other notes. And this creates it teaches you in a more efficient way by limiting yourself. And that on a larger scale, I think, is true when you're working to what you call program, because you're limited by genre. If you're making a horror movie, it's totally different if you're doing romance. Or, you know,
so, you don't want to mix those up.
You don't want to mix them up, you know. Although horror and comedy often go together, like black comedy. That's a really good, interesting mix. You can have
really
a mix of scary stuff, but then like crazy. For some reason, horror and comedy go really well together. That's a really interesting genre. So limitation can be really important, certainly with programming music. But if I'm just playing, what did you call it? Absolute music.
Yeah, absolute music.
Then you just no limitations, and you can just do what you want. You know.
Limitations. That's so good. Limitations so important. And when it comes to learning anything, like if you start with everything, you need to focus. You need one starting point.
Full part. There's a really good demonstration of this, and he limits himself. Oskar Peterson. Do you know Oskar Peterson?
No, great name.
Okay, he's a piano. He's arguably the greatest. Well, he's dead now. He died a few years ago, but he's one of the greatest piano players of all time. Jazz piano players. Everyone loves him. There's a song called Sea Jam Blues. I can't remember who wrote it. Maybe it's Duke Ellington. I forget. Anyway, and then just Google Oskar Peterson Sea Jam Blues and watch him play trio. And he starts off, and he's just played the whole melody. Is pretty much on one note. The melody goes da 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 da. So it's two notes. Da 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 da. When he starts his improvisation, he just sits on C. Da 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 da. Just on one note. So that's that limitation that I talked about to its tightest point, where you limit yourself just to one note, and he just plays the rhythm. Then he moves on, and you know, I love that. So I try and limit myself whenever I'm playing jazz gigs. I'll force myself just for fun and go, just play 3 notes. Or two is really hard, and one's even harder to make it sound good. But just play like 3 notes. You know, the first 3 notes of the blues scale, which means you don't even get to the blue note. It's C, E flat, and F. And that's really, really good fun. Really
cool. So tell me about that, because I know that you're really big in jazz. So tell me how that conversation between jazz and the film music.
Good question. There are some great jazz scores. I mean, I love the score for Birdman. Did you see that movie?
I think I actually did.
It's the one that's I mean, it's not shot in one scene, but it looks like one scene. You know, Michael Keaton plays this kind of guy who's got this delusion that he can fly, and you know, the fact that he was Batman in the Tim Burton Batman and stuff. And the score is absolutely incredible. It's just percussion. The whole score is just percussion. So it's him just playing drums and percussion and stuff. He's a jazz drummer, like jazz percussionist. And it's just it's fantastic. Absolutely amazing. I love it.
I can imagine.
Wow. Good one to check out.
But when it comes to you, tell me, like you do film music, but also you mentioned jazz gigs. Tell me, do you?
I mean, I started playing jazz a little later. I was in my 20s, you know, when I was 22, 23 or something.
When did you start playing other stuff, or when did you?
I was about 8, I think. Wow. About 7 or 8 when I started piano lessons. You know, I played for about 3 or 4 years. I enjoyed it. I played every day a little bit, like 20 minutes or half an hour or something. But then when I was 12, I went to a different school, different piano teacher, and he introduced me to Boogie Woogie. Dr. John, Professor Longhair, and Alan Toussaint. And that was when I just went, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. You know?
Yeah, you're hooked.
I was hooked. So I played all that stuff, and that is jazz. I mean, Boogie Woogie is sort of New Orleans jazz kind of thing, but it's not like jazz. So I didn't get into that until my 20s.
Right.
And now I love it. I play every day. I mean, I'm busy working, so I don't always have hours and hours to practice. But when I get the opportunity to sit and practice, I'll either practice classical or jazz. Classical I've taken up only in the last decade. I had no classical training. So I had these huge holes in my technique. Certain things that I just couldn't do properly without huge fatigue because I was never taught the technique. So about 10 years ago, I started studying classical.
Wow.
But I love to go through the real book and just improvise. And I love playing jazz, you know, and I'm playing with my trio. I don't play a lot here. I don't have a huge amount of gigs playing jazz, but I've got a gig in a few days with a trio, which is guitar and bass. It's going to be really good fun. We're playing a mixture of standards. We play some standards, some Cole Porter songs. We play Night and Day and Somewhere Over the Rainbow, which is
nice.
Ballad, you know. And then, but then we're going to play some modern tunes. I love playing Radiohead songs. Do you know Radiohead?
I do. Yeah.
So the song "Everything in Its Right Place." Do you know that?
Yeah.
You know that song?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I'll just play. You'll recognize it, maybe.
Okay.
That song. So my piano is going to be out of tune because of the weather. Excuse me, I have a tuned piano. It's going to be tuned in a couple of days.
Okay.
So I love playing that. Whenever I do solo piano shows, I always play that tune. I love that. So we'll do that. And then I'm going to play some Randy Newman. He's another one. Growing up, he was a huge influence on me. His songs, not his, but I love his scores as well. But I didn't listen to him until later on in life.
Yeah.
His songs, I play a huge catalog, you know, a lot of his catalog just for fun, and I'll play it in gigs as well. So, jazz has been a big thing in my life. Yeah,
because like one of the biggest things that jazz is really good at is improvisation, right?
Yes.
And when it comes to improvisation, if you don't know anything about music, you think improvisation, it means that they just out of nowhere sits down and just does something and it sounds great.
Yeah.
But it's not, right? It's you.
Not. Yeah.
I mean, you know you know the musical language. You have tried some stuff before. You practice, you practiced improvisation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we had that. I did a jazz gig last night, actually, just at the Lowe's Hotel in Santa Monica. Okay. And I had this conversation with the other musicians in the band. It's really funny when people who aren't musicians, and certainly not jazz musicians, they say, "Isn't it all just made up on the spot?" And you're like, "No, not at all." You know, there's a song. There's a song with chords and harmonic structure and a melody. You know, somewhere over the rainbow is a melody, whatever the song may be. And then you learn the harmony and you learn the melody, and then you learn the scales which work over those chords, and then you spend years and years and years practicing how to play those scales in different shapes and arpeggios and broken chords and thirds, and there's so many different ways you can play around with a scale.
Absolutely.
But you've done it 1,000 times before. Whatever lick you hear a jazz musician improvise, chances are they've played that lick thousands of times before to nail it and get it sounding really good.
Right.
So that when you come to improvise, you are making it up on the spot, but it's not like if you're a painter, you can only paint with the existing colors.
Exactly. Yeah.
You're not making new colors when you do it. If that's some sort of analogy.
Right. And then it comes back to what you said with you didn't say rules, but you said limitations. I mean, you have a chord, you have chords, you have a musical tone language. And you can't, just like in English, I can't say Swedish words, for example. Even though my mind is saying them to me right now. You are limited by these things. And I can imagine, because your work is very creative, right? It's someone telling you, hey, we're talking about this emotion in your scores. Do something with this. So it's so open, right? So how I can imagine that it's the exact same thing when you write your film music.
Much the same thing. You've practiced class, whatever the genre is, you've practiced it and studied it, and you know how these notes work together, or this rhythm works with this thing, or this instrument needs to go here and this one goes here. You shouldn't switch them and stuff. So it's all it's putting into practice the skills that it's applying the skills that you've already practiced for hundreds or thousands of hours, but there's always something more to learn. So I have a student the other day, just a new student, I've given him 2 or 3 lessons.
And
it's funny, he said to me, what's there to do at your level? Like, because to him, I'm like so much higher than he sees me as so much higher. And he says, what have you got to learn? And I'm like, dude, I've barely scratched the surface.
Wow.
Just, I've got so much more to learn. You never learn everything. You just can't. There's always someone out there who can teach you something, There's a really funny thing. Have you heard of Dunning-Kruger?
I haven't. Sorry. Okay. That's really, my answer to every person you.
No, that's okay. Sorry. That's okay. So this is called the Dunning-Kruger Smile. So they were psychologists, I think they were. I don't know when, in the 50s or 60s or something. And there's a graph that goes time on the x-axis and competence on the y-axis.
Right.
Oh, no, sorry, it's confidence versus competence.
Okay.
So when you start learning something new and you do a little bit of it, you think, this is amazing. I can play. If someone shows you how to play a C chords and you're like, oh, wow, this is fantastic. I can do this. So your confidence is very high, but your competence is very low. Sorry, it's not time, it's competence and confidence. So your confidence is very high. And then as you learn more, and you learn C minor, and then you learn this or this. As you start to get a little better, you become aware of how little you know.
Exactly.
So your confidence drops way down. You go, oh my God, I'm really bad at the piano. I'm really bad. And then you practice some more, and your competence slowly gets better. And then you get to a point where your confidence starts to come back up again, because you realize I've been doing this for 20 years, and I'm actually pretty good at this, know. So your competence matches your confidence. It's called the Dunning-Kruger Smile. I'm just fascinated by that.
I completely agree. I feel that it's exactly the same thing. Every time I start something new, I think that I'm the best, and then you realize that you're not.
Good. And you're just
not.
At the beginning of the tree. I have a good friend who's not musical at all, but he loves music, and we talk about music a lot, even though he's not a musician himself. And he's been training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA for like many years. Like every day, he's obsessed. And a few years ago, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, he posted on social media or something, and it said, I'm black belt. I'm now black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And he said, I'm now on like rung 2 of the ladder. Like black belt is like being grade 8 at an instrument. It's not that good. You're just like, you're no longer a sort of beginner. He's like, now the real work begins. And so to me, like, whoa, black belt is nothing better than black belt.
Right.
There really is. Black belt is not that impressive. You know.
Wow. That's so true. Everything of this is so true. And my experience is the same. It's this is why it's hard to get good at anything, because everyone stops when they realize how hard it is.
And absolutely.
And I think you said it good with you get your confidence begins to go up because you realize that you have done it for 20 years. That's the best way to look at it. Like time. Don't think in a year, don't think in a month. Think about at minimum 5 years. And 20 years, then you're decent.
Then you're doing good. Have you ever read Malcolm Gladwell's books? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, I actually have.
Which ones have you read?
I don't know.
Okay. They're great. There's like Blink and Tipping Point and David versus Goliath and Bomber Mafia. They're all really cool. But there's one he wrote a few years ago. It's called Outliers, and it's exactly about this. It's about people who are just a mixture of innate talent, but dedication and being in the right place at the right time. So he talks about Bill Gates. He lived in a town that in 1972 or something had the only college campus that had a coding machine. And it was open from 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. to use for free for the students. So he could go in and this was when coding was done with punch cards and stuff. He was lucky in that he got this start. But anyway, the idea that Malcolm Gladwell comes up with is that to be even considered to be off the starting block, you need to have done 10,000 hours.
You
need to have practiced for about 10,000 hours. That's a huge amount of work. That's 10 hours a day, every day for 3 years.
It's a lot.
That's a huge amount. Is that the right sum? Yeah, it's 10 hours a day for 3 years.
For 3 years.
So that's a lot of time.
It's so much time. So when I look at, if I make a segue, when I look at a piece of art, or there's a lot of things that I can look at, whether it's comedy or it's a movie or it's a piece of music. Some of it I get a feeling of, wow, this is for me, or wow, this is amazing. Can you tell me an example of something that you find really beautiful?
My favorite painting is in the Rijksmuseum. If we're talking specifically about art, because I can obviously talk about music, but you mentioned art. And it's by the author. He's a Dutch master, and I'm not sure how you say it in Dutch. I'm sure it's it's spelled with a G, Gerrit, but it's probably a credit. Gerrit D-O-U. He's not one of the famous ones. And he's got a painting, and it's called, I always get the name wrong because I get it confused with the Vermeer painting music lesson. I think it's called Night School. Night School. You know what? I'm just going to look it up because I want to get this right.
Do so.
And then you can actually look at the painting. Is it called Night School? Let me have a look. And the Night School.
The Night School.
The Night School. Yeah. Just Google it now and let me know what you think. Can you see it now?
Yeah, I can see it now. Yeah.
Okay. So for me, it's I'm looking. There's a bunch of different sort of images of it. It's so much darker when you see the actual painting. There's 4 different lights. The thing I love about this, there's 4 different light sources. You've got the lantern on the ground, and then you've got the big candle in the middle, where the teacher is teaching. Then the little girl is holding one to the left, and then in the back you've got this other group of kids sitting around another candle. The way it's got these light sources. It's so dark when you see the actual painting, and it's small. It's not a big painting. It's it's 16 inches by I don't know, 10 inches or something. It's not big. But I just love it. I can stare at it for hours. It's just my absolute favorite.
So when I see something like this, I just think what craft, to be able to make something look this realistic.
I know,
you said with 4 light sources and being able to make it realistic. Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So
did you see, on the subject, have you seen the movie Tim's Vermeer?
I haven't. Sorry.
Okay.
My man, everything you say, I say I haven't seen
That's
it.
okay. These are all good things that you can watch. Do you know who Penn and Teller are? The magicians?
Yeah.
Okay. Penn and Teller make a bunch of TV shows and movies and stuff. Yeah. And they made an amazing movie called Tim's Vermeer, and it's their friend Tim, who's this eccentric inventor. He like invents his own jetpack and all these kind of things. Yeah. And he became obsessed with Vermeer's technique. Right. How did Vermeer get basically sort of photorealism in his painting? And so he looks specifically at, I can't remember the name, it's either called Music Lesson or Music Class, so something like that. It's very famous painting, you know, you could look it up and see it. And he says he works out this crazy technique where he puts a little mirror, so he's here, the painter is here, and there's like a little small mirror here, and then in the background he has the thing he wants to paint, and then the mirror points down onto the page. Wow. So what he does is he's looking in the mirror, and then it's showing, and then he's painting, he's basically blending the colors of the thing he's trying to paint until it's exactly the same color. Exactly. You can't even see the edge of the mirror because it's so exact. And then he just moves the mirror. And this guy who's not a painter, this guy Tim, whatever his name is not a painter. Right. And he recreates this painting almost perfectly, and it destroys him. It takes him about a year. Yeah. And it's so painstaking. He recreates the model and the furniture and stuff how Vermeer would have done it, because there's no photographer. So it has to be, you know, like a still life kind of thing, you know. So he builds the set and then uses this technique, and he works out that this is probably how all these painters did it. Was using a mirror. It's just it's fascinating. Tim's Vermeer, it's called. Brilliant.
Wow. And for me and for my listeners, coming back to something that you find beautiful when it comes to your industry, you mentioned Jaws. Like, can you give me like your top 5 film music?
Film score? Or TV. So, Superman. The first Richard Donner Superman. Okay. Back to the Future, Alan Silvestri. That's one of my all-time favorite scores.
Amazing.
I absolutely love that. I have to say, I know it's a bit sort of popular, but like Batman, the Tim Burton Batman, the Danny Elfman Batman score. Wow. I just absolutely love that. Oh my goodness, what's numbers? I mean, it's so hard to pick. I'll try and pick someone other than John Williams. I love John Ryan scores for Paul Thomas Anderson movies. Right. So maybe Magnolia or Punch Drunk Love. Right. I love those. And then let's go more recent. Did you see that movie If Beale Street Could Talk?
No.
Oh, it's awful. It's so sad and just it's just heartbreaking. But the score for that is fantastic. Wow. I've just thrown 5 out there that I can just think that I really love.
On top of your head,
but I love, I love like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. Like the spaghetti western, music. Right. Those. Yeah. There's too many to choose from, but there you go. There's 5 or 6
that
I really love.
That's perfect. Yeah. Wow. Cool. I think we've done this for an hour.
Excellent. Yeah, it's an hour. Yeah.
Thank you for taking my call. Taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Very nice for me to get the perspective for someone like you, halfway on the other side of the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah. So
thank you very much. Thanks for having me.